Oh my gosh, guys, we're back. And I'm home alone this time, so I can actually talk. It's crazy. Anyways, it took me like a minute and a half to like actually release the last video because I was like, oh, I'm gonna like do stuff. Oh my gosh, there's a baddie over there. Um, and then I didn't do stuff, and so it was just such a boring video, and I'm very sorry about that. Um, but I decided I'm gonna spend today talking about my favorite show at the moment, aka the show I'm binging at the moment, because that's all I do. Downton Abbey. Now, I'm sure many of you know what Downton Abbey is, but I'm gonna tell you based on my head and the 4 seasons I've watched so far. I haven't finished season 4. I'm in season 4 right now. Let me think. So it is a show about a British aristocratic family. Wow, I can talk, guys. I'm really proud of myself for that one. um, and it's the Crawley family, and the dad is the Earl of Grantham, which is like prestigious and all that, you know? Earldoms are like for example, I'm ADHD, if you can't tell. Anyways, the late queen, her youngest son, till her death was the Earl of Essex, and now her grandson, his son is the Earl of Essex. So it's like, it's an aristocratic title. Like, that's legit. And they are just it starts right after the Titanic sinks. By the way, there's gonna be spoilers right now. If you want to leave now, because I'm spoiling the heck out of this show. So the pilot episode is when the Titanic sinks, and the current heir to the Earl of Grantham is on the Titanic, and his son. And so it's like, okay, well, now there's a succession crisis because girls can't inherit earldoms. That's not a thing. And the Earl only has daughters. And so it's like, okay, well, we have to find the next one. And it's like this third cousin who's a solicitor of all things. If you don't know, a solicitor is a lawyer. I didn't know that. I still don't, that's not what a solicitor is in my head, but according to Downton Abbey, that's what it is. And so, let me think about this. And guys, this is where I got hooked. I watched the first episode, like, years and years ago, because I'm a huge British aristocracy nerd. I love learning about it. It's the best. It's not the best. It's really entertaining. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, you need to watch Downton Abbey. You're gonna love it. But when I first watched it, I was like deep into I was homophobic stage. And the first episode has some gay men in it. And I was like, ooh, I'm not gonna do that. And then I decided, you know what? I'm gonna rewatch it because I want to see if I actually like it now. And I do, because in the second episode, Dan Stevens is in it. And if you don't know, I love Dan Stevens. He's amazing. Primarily in his role in the Eurovision Song Contest with Will Ferrell and what's her face from Mean Girls. It's good. He plays this Russian guy, Alexander Lemtov. Oh, love him. I haven't watched that in a while, and I'm not planning on watching it anytime soon because I'm sheltering myself at the moment. But like, oh, I love that show. So Dan Stevens is in it, and I was like, okay, I get to look at Dan Stevens for like an hour in every episode. Absolutely. And he and the oldest daughter of the Earl of Grantham have this little like love-hate relationship, and I'm all over enemies to lovers, guys. I love it. I would never wish that on myself or anyone I know personally, but I love reading about it because it's so entertaining. But let me think about what I'm saying now. Oh, so I was watching it. I was like, okay, we get Dan Stevens. This is amazing. And then okay, we're gonna jump into season 3 spoilers. They freaking killed him. And I found that out because I was scrolling through IMDb, as you do, when you're wanting to hear about this new show you're watching, and, like, reading the, what is it called? Like, the synopsis of the episodes. Guys, don't do that. That's really stupid. It's just so stupid. Don't do that. Cause I was reading through, and I got to season 4, episode 1, and keep in mind, I'm on, like, season 3, episode 4-ish right now, and there's 8 episodes in a special in each season, so, like, I've got 5 episodes to go till I get to the end of the season 3, but I get to season 4, episode 1, and it says, Mary's still mourning the death of Matthew. By the way, Mary and Matthew got married, and Matthew's Dan Stevens. And that just broke me. Like, I was like, okay, well, I need to see if this is real. So I kept watching the show. And it was real. It really was. And I was really upset about it because they didn't set it up at all, really. And, like, knowing that he was going to die ahead of time was so frustrating because it was like, okay, so they're in Scotland and Mary has to go home because it's like, oh, I'm pregnant and the baby's being annoying, so I need to go and rest. And then she gets home and she's like, okay, yeah, I'm having a baby right now. So Matthew comes to York, which is where they live, or Yorkshire, I don't know how British people say it. And he goes to meet the baby first thing, and it's just Matthew and Mary and the baby, and it's so cute, and I love it, except for I didn't because I knew it was coming. And I'm trying to think of how I'm saying this. Oh my gosh. Mary's like, okay, go drive home and tell the family that the baby's here and you can, like, tell them to come. And he's driving home all happy and jubilant, and that's the first time it's, like, making you think, like, oh, something wrong is happening. Because he's too happy. That's not a thing that we do in this show. We don't be happy. That's absurd. And so he's just, like, grinning, the biggest grin. And my little Dan Stevens stan heart couldn't take it because he's just so cute. And Mary's sitting there holding her baby in the hospital like, oh my gosh, I'm a mom. This is crazy, guys. I hope you like my impression of Mary Crawley. And then it shows Matthew on the side of the road bleeding out because in a car that he had just hit head on. Like, what the heck? It was crazy, guys. And they had the audacity to show Mary in the hospital talking to the nurse, like, oh, don't worry, the family will be here soon, and I'll tell Matthew that he needs to wait his turn because he's already seen the baby. I was so upset, guys. I was so upset. I still am, if you can't tell. I watched this like 2 days ago. Oh my gosh, I hate it. And so I'm currently resorting to reading a fan fiction about Mary getting a second try, like one of those fix-it fan fictions where they like traveled back in time. I was like, oh, well, I have a chance to make Matthew not die. I like those when it's this situation where I didn't want him to die at all. It was too soon. And then, oh my gosh, so season 4, episode 1 was just Mary, like, in mourning because her husband just died 6 months ago, but, like, still, that's really soon. And then episode 3, I think, but I watched it second because where I'm watching it is out of order. Don't worry about that. Anyways, this guy shows up and he's, like, being all flirty with her. I'm like, no, Dan, this is Dan's job. He just had to go and die, jerk. So, very upset about that. Can't believe they killed him off and then immediately had a man flirt and then propose to his widow. What? That's not what you do. I get it's like the 1820s, but no. You can't replace Dan Stevens. That's not a thing. So, there's that. And then there was the other, like, romance arc that I'm actually interested in is Sybil and Branson, so Sybil is the youngest daughter of the Earl of Grantham, and she starts to fall in love with their chauffeur, which is like a servant, because it's the 20s or like teens 20s, and they have servants. And he's an Irishman, and get better yet, he's a revolutionary socialist. So he's like, they would never want their daughter to marry this man because he's a little too progressive for our liking, if you know what I mean. And then Sybil is just like, no, I'm gonna marry him, obviously. So she gets up, runs away, and is ready to elope. And then Mary and Edith, the second sister, they find her and like, hey, no, idiot, you need to like actually talk to our parents so they have a say in this. Like, you can do what you want, but you need to let them decide if they want to keep you in the family or not. Which I appreciate. I'm a big family person. I appreciate that, like giving people a chance to say no. Anyways, so Sybil and Branson come back, and she's like, yeah, we're getting married, like it or not. We'll wait till after, this was when, what's his face? Dan Stevens was engaged to someone else, and then the Spanish flu hit, and then she died. Fun story there. But she's like, hey, yeah, we'll wait till after Matthew and Lavinia's wedding so that we don't ruin the mood. But then Lavinia died, so Sybil's just like, hey, peace out, shawties. I'm gonna go marry my chauffeur. And then they get married, and then like the next episode, they write from Ireland because they have to live in Ireland because he's a socialist. And she's like, hey, so I'm pregnant. And it's just like crazy. And then they come to visit for Mary and Matthew's wedding because Matthew moves on real quick. And I'm so proud of him. I love that guy. And then Edith also almost gets married, but then the guy leaves her at the altar. So sad. He was like 40 years older than her though. So like, fair enough, but they get to take this cute little picture like, oh, we're all married. Oh shoot, am I breaking diamonds? No, I'm not. Okay. And then, yeah, Edith got left at the altar, so they weren't actually all married, but, like, they could pretend. It was fun. We needed it. Oh, I'm out of torches. It's okay. I have stuff. But then Sybil has her baby. I think it was at the end of season 3. Big fat question mark. I don't know. And she's, like, in labor, and the doctor... the town doctor comes, he's like, hey, I don't know how she's doing. And then the like royal doctor, who's like actually in charge of delivering babies, comes, and he's like, oh, she's fine, don't worry, this is what labor looks like. And the town doctor's like, no, this looks like she's gonna die. He's like, no, this is just what labor looks like, don't worry, guys. And then she has the baby, everyone's fine, and it's a baby girl, and so Sybil and Branson are getting to hold their baby girl. Fun fact, his name's Tom, just so we all know. I'm gonna keep calling him Branson though, because he's Branson. And then that night, I don't remember who went into whose room, but someone went into someone's room, and they're like, hey, Sybil's not okay, you need to come out right now. And they get in there, and she's having a seizure, like, yeah, no. And the town doctor's in there like, yeah, she's dying, like, there's nothing we can do now. And the whole time he's like, yeah, maybe we should do a cesarean section because then there's a possibility that she won't die. But then they didn't, and she did die. So that was fun. And it was, I'm gonna say something that sounds horrible, but I was getting so annoyed with how outspoken Branson was about politics. So I was like, okay, at least he has something else to be annoying about, which sounds horrible, but I was getting really annoyed. So there's that. Call me a horrible person all you like. I get it. Anyways, then, I'm trying to think what else happens. Yeah, so Sybil died. They named the daughter Sybil, but they call her Sibby just so, like, we know it's a different person. And, Branson is like, no, she's gonna be Catholic because she's Irish. and the whole family of Englishmen, which in the early 20th century, English was aristocratic England was very Protestant. It still is, but like very much so then. And so they were like, no, we're not christening our granddaughter as a Catholic. But then Mary comes in and she's like, listen, right before Sybil died, she told me that she wants the baby to be Catholic. And like that did happen. She wasn't just making stuff up. But it was just, it's crazy, dude. I love it. I love the drama. It's definitely an ITV show. If you can't tell. My pickaxe is broken and I haven't found diamonds yet. Okay. What else is there to talk about? The war. The war happened. I wasn't really expecting much to come out of the war because, like, war. I don't know what I just said. I do know what I just said. It just didn't make any sense. Listen, I'm just talking. It's 7 p.m. My brain turns off at like 4. So there you go. Yeah, so it was World War One, and if you don't know, World War One was the one where literally all of the monarchies just crumbled. Like it before World War One, there was it was crazy. There was a German Empire, the German Empire, and there was a bunch of little mini monarchies within that, like the kingdoms, principality, like it had all the fun stuff. And then there was the current monarchies like Sweden, Norway, Finland's not a monarchy right now. Sweden, Norway, Denmark, England, France was a monarchy before. It's not anymore, just so we all know. My head didn't get that. I'm trying to think, what else is there? There's a lot. Monaco is one. I don't know if it was pre-World War One, but it is now. It's a principality. Luxembourg, Netherlands, Belgium. Fun fact, the first king of Belgium, Leopold I, was Queen Victoria's uncle. So that's pretty fun. And he was previously married to the heiress apparent of England, but then she died in childbirth because that's a thing that happened back then. Anyways, side tangent over. But like all of these monarchies just crumbled in World War One because people were like, no, we don't want to be ruled by a monarchy. We want to have communism. You know how that went. We live in the real world. But then so like the Russian royal family was assassinated. I don't think France fell quite then because, yeah, it took a few years for France to go. But it was on the downturn because of the World War One, I think. I might be making stuff up. I don't know. Oh my gosh, I'm so good at this game. Oh, I did it. Oh, my sounds aren't on. I'm sorry. That's awkward. I turn them off when I watch YouTube when I'm playing Minecraft. So, there's that. Let me just dump everything real quick. But yeah, so many monarchies fell in the 1910s because the war. And they eventually, like, England was in trouble because it was a monarchy and King George V was very extravagant from what I know. I don't know much about King George V. I'm pretty sure he was extravagant. That sounds like something he'd do. Excuse me. That was awkward. No, it wasn't. I just said that. But he was super extravagant. So people were like, hey, so you're gonna die. And another thing, the family was the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, which is a German duchy, which was previously part of the it wasn't. So it was a German duchy, and Queen Victoria married the second son of that duchy, and then eventually her son inherited it, so it was part of the United Kingdom, but not technically. But he... Oh, I'm hungry. So King George V was like, listen, the Germans are the bad guys right now, so we're gonna drop that title. And so now they're the Windsors, which I'm sure you've heard, because it's very, like, they're the Windsors. And he chose that because it's his favorite castle, which we love it. We love it. I'm so proud of him. It's a good castle. It's a pretty cool castle, I must say. But yeah, it's so fun. I love history. So yeah, and I do know that in one of the Downton movies, they do meet the royal family, like King George the Third, or not the third, that's the American one, King George the Fifth, which I'm quite excited for that. That's what's driving me right now since Dan Stevens died. Jerk. That's not what I wanted. Guys, I'm so good at this game. So yeah, I'm excited about that. But yeah, so basically, all the monarchies fell. So the Granthams are quite worried about this because they're not a monarchy, but they're part of a monarchy. They got, like, earldoms are technically monarchies. They were forever and a half ago, but it's a lot more, like, ceremonial now. Like, oh, you're the Earl of Essex. Good job, boy. But he doesn't really do much other than be the Queen's son. In this case, grandson. Or the King's nephew. Oh my gosh. Charles is the king. That's weird. Anyways. Yeah, it's a whole lot of weird. I don't remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'll have this one be the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's what I want. But yeah, it's like, if the monarchy falls, then yeah, you'll still be an earl, but after you, that's it. Like, that's a problem. And so yeah, the whole family's just freaking out because, like, okay, we're gonna lose everything because of the war. But that's not the huge thing, because, oh my gosh, they all decide to, like, get jobs because they're not being useful. So Sybil becomes a nurse. Sybil's still alive, by the way. So Sybil becomes a nurse. Edith does something. Don't really know what. Mary also does something. Again, don't really know what. But Matthew, our boy Matthew, was at war. Like, he was in it. And it was so sad because he was just, guys, Dan Stevens in a World War I uniform. Oh, I'm all over that. But he like, there was a few episodes where he was just gone. I am really bad at watching the episodes in order, so I did get spoiled on that a few times. That he's like, okay, no, he's fine. And I also read ahead on episodes, so that's not good for me either. But yeah, it's just crazy. So Matthew was at war. While he was at war, he met Lavinia Swire, who he got engaged to, and I was so upset about that because Mary was just such a good sport the entire time, and I wouldn't have been. I would have been a jerk, but she was just so nice. It was rude. Yeah, it's crazy stuff, man. I don't know how these people do it. These fake people that were written by screenwriters. But you get the idea. Yeah, guys, I love learning about British aristocracy or European aristocracy overall. Oh, that's another thing. So, right before I started watching this, I was watching one of Lindsay Holiday's videos from, like, Tea Time with Lindsay Holiday. She does a lot of really good history videos. I love it. But she did a video about dollar princesses, which were rich Americans that sold their daughters to get titles. And it was really fun. I loved learning about that. And then I watched Downton, and then the mom is a dollar princess, where, like, the whole time they're like, oh yeah, Mary needs to inherit Cora's fortune because it's Cora's fortune, not the Granthams. And that's a whole thing. But she married Matthew, so it's fine. But it was crazy. And so, like, yeah, Cora's family, Cora's the wife, Countess of Grantham, and she had this huge dowry, which a dowry is something that aristocrats would use to pay their daughters off, essentially, is to be like, okay, well, this is her cost of living, and we want to make sure that you'll be able to match that. So here's a load of money. Have fun. So yeah, if you hear about dowries, that's what it is. So yeah, Cora had a huge dowry, and that was just a fact of life. And then, I'm trying to think, what do I want to do right now? I'll keep mining. And so because of that massive dowry, she was a hot topic, you could say. I'm just talking. I don't know what I'm saying. The fortune was a hot topic, and she ended up... Oh, that's not what I want. She ended up getting married to the Earl of Grantham so that she could be a countess, because her parents wanted a daughter that was a countess. That's how it works. And they talk about in the show that the Earl of Grantham, I think his name's Robert, he wasn't in love with Cora at first. He just married her for the money. And then after a while, he fell in love, and it was because they had kids. And they bring that up a lot, like, oh, are you just marrying this guy for his money? And they're like, Mom, that's what you did. That's what both of you did. You married for the title, he married for the money. There was no love involved. But it's fine. I'm not where Edith gets married yet. I do know she does get married. I don't know. I'm pretty sure she does. But she just had sex with this newspaper guy, and I'm pretty sure he just left her to be like, okay, I betted you, now we're done. Which is jerky, let me tell ya. So, don't approve of that. But I do think that's what... Oh, bless me. I do think that's what happened. We'll see. I'm only like halfway through that episode, and then I took a break because my family was going to go to dinner. And then they went to a place that I got food poisoning from, and so I said no. So now I'm here, playing Minecraft, and talking about Downton Abbey. It's great. I'll finish that episode tomorrow, probably. We'll see. I'm going to play more Minecraft tomorrow, though, because I'm going to be home alone for a while, and I don't get that a lot, so I can actually talk. It's crazy. I love talking, if you can't tell. But yeah, it's just so fun. I love seeing these little dramas of, like, the aristocrats. It's so dumb because it's aristocrats, rich people who just, like, were given titles. So funny. But I love it. It's so fun. And then there are the servants, their storylines, but they bother me quite a lot, so I'm not going to talk about them. Actually, no, I will. I'm going to talk about why they bother me, though, so if you don't want to hear that, just stop watching. That's probably going to be the rest of this video. So, my biggest complaint... Okay, actually, no. I'm going to start with Thomas. I don't like Thomas. He's just annoying. That's why I don't like him. He knows what he's doing. He's just annoying. The one I really don't like is Bates, which I don't know if this is a hot topic or not, because I'm not online. So I just, like... I'm just letting it be. I don't like him. I really don't. Because his whole character is, oh, I'm so awful. I'm such an awful person, my lord. I can't possibly be your valet. A valet is a person who dresses the men. Just so we all know. But then he's like he's doing that to be like, oh, I'm so horrible. And the show's making it be like, oh, well, no, he's not actually. He's so humble. Look at this. And then he gets one of the housemaids, Anna, to fall in love with him. And she's an angel. I have nothing against Anna. She's great. But then he's like, oh, yeah, by the way, there is a Mrs. Bates. I am married. And Anna's like, okay, well, where is she? And he's like, oh, she ran off. I don't know what I could do. She's an abuser. And they talk about how he's been to prison for, like, petty theft, I think. And he's like, yeah, it's because my wife stole something. And I took the blame for her because I loved her. But now I'm realizing that was a mistake. And then she comes back and she's like, listen, I want my husband back, because she finds that he has money or something. I don't know. I didn't pay that much attention. But she's like, listen, I want my husband back. But then she's like, still apparently being really abusive, question mark. And Bates is like, no, I want to marry Anna. I'm in love with Anna. And Anna's like, yeah, I'm in love with you. I want to marry you. And Bates is like, listen, I'll get a divorce from Mrs. Bates. But then she doesn't want to, so that's not going to happen. And then there's one point where she makes him stop working at Downton because, like, oh, people that you like, that's not allowed. That's the abuser side of her. But then which honestly, I get where she's coming from, because her husband is like, no, I need to divorce you so I can marry this other maid, which I get. She's not a great person, the wife, but like, you're playing yourself out to be all high and mighty, but you're not. And then there's one point where Lord Grantham is talking to Bates, and he's like, oh, how's Mrs. Bates doing? Have you gotten a divorce? Or your ex-wife, like the old Mrs. Bates. And Bates says, oh yeah, I wish she was my ex. Better yet, late, which means I wish she was dead. And then later that very episode, she commits suicide. Wouldn't you believe it? Very suspicious, if I do say so myself. And they were really good at hinting at it because he was being so suspicious. And so then he gets charged for her murder because, like, hey, suicide isn't like a thing in London, in lower class London or middle class, I don't know. But they're not even in London, they're in Yorkshire. Suicide's not a thing. That's not real. So, like, you must have killed her. And he's like, listen, I didn't kill her. Why would I kill my wife? And so they just live with that. And then immediately after finding out Mrs. Bates is dead, he marries Anna. And to be fair, Anna's like definitely pushing it, but like still, that's not how you do. And he immediately marries Anna, which that's another thing that's like so suspicious. Like, listen, if you want to act innocent, wait till they know you're not guilty, then marry your lady friend, because they're gonna think you're guilty until then. Anyways, they so they get married, and then immediately the cops come like, hey, listen, you're arrested for killing your wife, have fun. And then they have the trial and all of that, and they're talking to Lord Grantham, and they're like, hey, has Mr. Bates ever said anything about wanting to kill his wife? And Lord Grantham's like, no, he's never said that. But the prosecutioner is really good at his job. He's like, yeah, but like, what about this one time, like the morning she died? And he's like, oh yeah, I guess he did say that he wanted her dead. Whoa. And then they're like, okay, time to hang this guy. But then we find out, like, oh, that's just what they say. They're not actually going to hang him. He's probably just going to get life sentenced. But, like, he was so suspicious, and he did nothing to help his case. Like, yeah, I would hang him too. That's, yeah, obviously. But no, they let him out because Anna did some detective work, which I'm so proud of her. So proud of her for doing that. But, like, she could do so much better. She deserves so much better than Bates. Let's be honest. It's crazy. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm gonna stop there because I've been talking for over a half hour. That being said, I'm probably gonna keep talking about something else and make another video because why not double up? You could get 2 videos in 2 days. That'd be crazy. Okay, well, we're literally just gonna come right back to here because I don't want to get out of the mine. So, I'll see you guys tomorrow.